Welcome, everybody, and thank you for listening to this recording or jumping on live. What I want to share with you tonight is kind of how to get unstuck. What I'm going to share with you is, I'm curious, what holds you back? What could possibly, if you knew you couldn't fail, and jot this question down. If you knew you couldn't fail, what would you attempt to do? Would you go for a star? Would you shoot to be have $1,000 retail month, get your picture on the cover of the newsletter? Like, what would you attempt to do? Would you go for red jacket? Maybe DIQ? Maybe sales court? A diamond B? Like, if you knew the if you knew every light was going to be green from here to the end, what would you do? Now, with that said, you and I both know that not every light will be green between here and where you go. But when your why is strong enough, the little speed bumps don't matter, right? So when you get on a road and you're driving and there are all these speed bumps, and I actually have one of my very best friends lives on a street where literally every other stop sign, there's this massive speed bump where you have to slow down to probably about 10 miles an hour to go over the speed bump so you don't ruin your car because it's a very steep speed bump. And every time I go down there, I'm thinking, oh my God, I hate these speed bumps. They make me slow down. But even with all those speed bumps in the way, that could be a no. It could be a team member that you thought was going to, or a prospect that you thought was going to sign up to join your team and she doesn't. Or you set a goal and you're like, okay, I've got one party a week booked. I'm going to hold one party a week. Well, we all know that not every party we book will hold because that's just the numbers game, right? Just like every hairstylist, not every client's going to show up. So, how do you handle adversity? What I'm going to share with you is just a couple fun little quotes, and I want you to feel free to type in the chat any feedback. But what I'm going to tell you is inactivity breeds fear. So the longer you stay out of action, the more you overthink this business. This business is really simple, gang. It's put it on, wash it off. Put it on, wash it off. How's your face feel? Like, this isn't transplanting organs. We're not taking anyone's life. We're not we're not doing anything that would be out of the ordinary. But I will tell you, when you have a why, something I'm just going to, and I'm going to give you guys some really basic examples, and this may not relate to all of you, but it will relate to most of you. If there's something you want to pay for, I'd prefer it not to be a bill, like a debt, because when your brain hears the word debt or bill, it goes into the amygdala, like fight or flight, like, well, it's a bill, I owe money. And bills stress people out, which is why I'm all about women having financial freedom in this company. I don't care how much debt you have. Katrina Harris, National Sales Director Katrina Harris, when she joined Mary Kay, this is back in the 80s, she had over $90,000 of student loan and credit card debt. $90,000. You guys know how many zeros that is? This is in the 80s. I don't know what that would be in today's equivalent dollar, but even 90,000 is a ton of money, right? She came in and she paid that off within just a couple very short years in Mary Kay. I think she did it like in 18 months or something crazy. Why? Because she had a purpose. For every woman that she pampered, she knew that the average would be at least $100 a face. So some women will buy an eye makeup remover, yippee, $20, right? And then some women say, I want it all. And that's a $300 or $400 purchase. So what I will tell you is that numbers never lie in this company. If you do the work and you put your head down and you take the nose and there are days, in fact, I was just sharing with Lisa, one of my consultants, is there are days where I almost laugh at how easy this business is. Like yesterday, I answered two texts and two phone calls that generated me over $800 in sales. Those are payback for me holding parties with those people over the last 12 months. They either needed stuff or they called me and they said, hey, my skin's super dry. What do you suggest? And I made some suggestions. Then I showed the August special deals, blah, blah, blah. There's days like that you're like, is this legal? Like, I made $400 yesterday answering two phone calls and two text messages. But then there's days where I reach out and it's no after not now. I'm busy. I have COVID. My kids are back at school, like blah, 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 right? And you have days like that where you're like, oh my God, what am I going to do? I will tell you statistically, you can't get 10 no's in a row. So prove me wrong. If you literally book friends and family, and you get to 7 or 8 no's. Like they literally don't, not now doesn't count. This isn't a good time doesn't count. When they say to you, no, I'm not interested in booking a party, that's a no, right? Not like this week isn't going to work, but I'm available next week. That's not a no, that's a next week person, right? But if you know you can't get 10 no's in a row and you get to 6 or 7, oh, I'd be so excited because that means your next yes is right around the corner. So, with that, I want to share with you just a couple thoughts. Okay, I'm going to put my glasses on so I can read my notes. So, let me ask you a question. What makes you unstoppable? What makes you have the mindset of there's nothing I can't do? Now, for me, I love the song by Carrie Underwood called Champion. And I could try to share it with you, but I don't have it up here right now. So, but I'm going to say that, hold on, that's not going to work. I'd have to go outside of this. Okay. Um, find for me, this is just what works for me. Find a song that takes you to a place where you feel very unstoppable. Very much like there's nothing I can't do. I could do anything. You know what I mean? Like, and a psychological study was actually done where people put their hands on their hips, like their fists, like this, right? On their hips with that like Wonder Woman or Superwoman pose for 60 seconds, not 60 minutes, not 10 minutes, 60 seconds, listening to a song that empower them, or they could say to themselves out loud, I can do anything. I'm strong. I'm brilliant. I'm capable. There's nothing I can't do. And they just constantly repeat an affirmation like that for 60 seconds. They found that these women didn't need depression medication. The goals that they achieved were off the chart for doing 60 seconds of that a day. I don't know about you, but I have 60 seconds. I'd be up for that, right? I would totally be up for seeing what could happen with that. So, what if you knew you couldn't fail, right? What if you if um what if what you tried was guaranteed to work? So what I am going to share with you guys is there is no guarantee in this company. If I if I had a crystal ball, I wish I did, but if I had a crystal ball that told me, okay, this gal, you need to have her on your team, she's going to be amazing. This gal, she's not going to do anything. This gal, she'll be amazing. I don't have a crystal ball. I assume that everyone's going to do amazing. I assume everyone comes in and will be successful because I believe that success is a mindset. Okay? I believe that whatever you set your heart on is going to happen. All right. So let's talk about a why. And I'm going to share with you a very, very, very basic visual. This actually, I don't want to take credit for this. This actually comes from Karen Rydell. She's a national sales director. And hold on one second. Okay. So, what she strongly suggests, and I 1000% agree with her, is to have something that creates a win for you. Because what I will tell you is, would you guys agree with every win you have, it builds confidence, right? So one of my relatively new consultants, she's been in about 3 months. She did her very own skincare class in Los Angeles last week on her own. And she's only seen me do maybe two, and she's watched some virtual stuff. And she's like, oh my God, I did this party. It was amazing. I had 500 in sales. Her confidence right now is off the chart. Even if it hadn't been financially successful and she hadn't sold 500, her confidence level. She's like, they were throwing questions at me and I could answer them. And she goes, oh my God, I felt so amazing. And I said, can you only imagine how much easier and easier this will get? So what I'm going to share with you is this picture. So it says, I will finance the following with my Mary Kay business. Now, I'd like for each and every one of you to set a goal of something that is $500 or less that you are going to achieve by September the 15th. That is the last day for Star Consultant Quarter. And so let's say you were at Home Depot and or not Home Depot, at Costco, and you found this beautiful piece of furniture, because I happened to be there and saw this beautiful piece of furniture. And it was kind of like not an entertainment center, but it's like a sideboard that would have lots of storage, beautiful cabinets, beautiful wood, and it was $600. And I'm thinking, Diane, do you need that? The answer was no. Do I want that? Yes, but I don't need it because I already have a sideboard. But if I wanted to buy it, I would put in here, I need this much profit. Like if I wanted to buy that by September 15th, walk into Costco and pay cash, I would put in here $600 of my profit, right? Now that's not even 30 days away, but let's just say you took that amount of profit. So let me show you how this works. You would put $600, right? We're going to walk through the math on this because this is super important, you guys. You might think this is silly, but let me tell you, the way your brain works, as soon as you start doing stuff for your family, it'll make all the difference in the world. So if you want to buy this piece of furniture, I think it was like 500 and I think it was like $575 or $545, something like that. So let's just say 600 out the door with tax. That's $600, right? So you're going to put 600 is your amount of profit right down here, right? Number of months, one. So you divide it by one, okay? And then you divide it by zero point 0.4, and then which is 1,500, and you divide that by, let's say you had 4 weeks, 4 weeks. That's going to tell me that if I sold 375 for the next 4 weeks, at the end of the 4 weeks, so that would be basically September 26th, I would have that cash to walk into Costco and buy that. Okay, well, I don't know about you all, but I would put a picture of that on my phone. I would take a picture of me. I'd be silly because that's how I roll. I would be in Costco and I'd take a picture of me standing next to this piece of furniture, like smiling, like cheese, next to the thing. And then every day, on great days, on days that frustrate me, on days that like no one says yes, and on days when I answer the phone and sell $600, like it would make me just want to go, you know what? I want to surprise my family with that. I want to say to my husband, look what my Mary Kay paid for. Check out the new buffet. It would be super, super fun. So you take the dollar amount of how much you need, you divide it by how many months. Maybe you've got a goal. Maybe you want to have an all cash Christmas. I don't know. But here's why this is important. It gives you something specific to shoot for. Now, I wouldn't go all the way to the holidays. I would say do something between now and September or October. So if you want to do something by October 26th, that's 2 months from now, figure out what it, maybe you want to buy that $1,200 sectional at Costco. I'm not trying to pick on Costco, but maybe you want to go this weekend on Labor Day savings and you're going to put a table on layaway and you put $100 down on a new dining room set. Take the money, figure out how much money you need to pay for the table, divide it by how many months. Let's say you have 1 month or 2 months. Divide that by zero point 0.4 and divide that by 4 weeks, and it'll tell you a number. Now, if I was going for that number that I just told you guys, the number that I came up with is 375. My dream number is 375. What does that mean? That means that every week my goal is to sell 375. So as silly as you're going to see, and you guys are going to probably laugh at me, and that's fine. I print this sheet out. This sheet has $10 squares. This isn't rocket science, you guys. But let me tell you how this motivates you. If your goal is to sell 375 a week, right? This represents 1,000 retail. Okay, well, 1,000 retail is not going to get me that entire piece of furniture at Costco. I've got to sell a little bit more than 1,000. So I'm going to run off 2 of these. And I might, this is 1,000. And then if I only need like 14 or 1,500 more, then I might put on here couch or furniture purchased at Costco or whatever. And I'm going to literally put this up. Now, when I get a call from a client and she says, oh, I need foundation and my repair day cream, and that's a $70 order, I'm literally going to come in. You guys are going to laugh at me. If you looked at my closet right now, I have 7 squares filled in, and I'll write over here, Melody, or whatever the customer's name is. I did a facial the other day and the lady spent 300 and something dollars. So I literally colored in 3 columns and a little bit, I think it was 330, all in one color. And I just literally go like this, scratching it over and put on here the name Suzanne. Does that make sense? So the game is, so like if my goal for the month is to sell 2,000, I run off 2 of these. If my goal is to sell 3,000 or 4,000, I run off 3 or 4 of them. $1,000 retail will get your picture on the cover of our unit newsletter. So I noticed that in the chat, there was a comment that said, how do you get to 0.4 or 40%? So let me go back and share that picture one more time so we can go over this, because that's really important for you guys to understand. So let's say you want, so what is this? August, September, October. So let's say by October 26th, 2 months away, you want to buy a dining room set and it's $1,000, right? So you need $1,000 profit. Are y'all with me? $1,000 profit, and you've got 2 months to do it, right? So you take $1,000, which is your profit, right? $1,000 divided by 2 months, correct? Because we're saying that it's August, we're going to get it in October. So divide it by 2, that gives you the number 500. Now you take that and you hit divide by 0.4. That means you're taking 60% profit to put an order in, and you save some for section 2, postage, whatever. So you're pulling 40% profit. All right. So 500 time divided by zero point 0.4 is your 40%. That'll give you 1250, and you divide it by how many by 4 weeks. And that's going to tell you you need to sell 312 a week. If you sell 312 a week over the next 2 months, that $1,000 dining room set is paid for with cash. Now, if you have bills to pay, let me just talk to you just a little bit about psychology, how this works. The way our amygdala works, our amygdala is here to keep us safe, right? Anytime we wander off our comfort zone, which is what we're used to do. Like if you've always sold 300 or 400 a week, and let's say your new goal is 500, your brain's like, ooh, 500, that's a big number. You've never done that before. Go back to your comfort zone, stick with 300. And you're thinking, so that as soon as your toes get next to the edge of the comfort zone, it's very natural for your brain to go, pull back a little. That's getting to the edge. But how do you expand your comfort zone? By putting your toes right up against the edge. Beat your best competition. If the best week you've had a Mary Kay is 550, do 575. Doesn't matter what everyone else is doing. Beat it by 600. Get to 600, get to 610, get to 625. Every time you do that, your brain goes, wow, you did that. I bet you could do this. But you've got to have stick-to-itiveness and realize that when you're working on goals, there are times when you fall down and you don't feel like getting up. But you know what? That doesn't give you grit. Would you want your kids to do that? If your kid struck out at a softball game or a t-ball game, would you want the kid to give up and go, I'm never playing t-ball again. I struck out twice today. I'm never playing again. You're like, okay, so you struck out twice. You're really good at swinging the bat. Now we got to do is just connect the bat with the ball and you're good to go. So what I'm going to share with you guys is you just don't know what's going to work for you. You've got to find what's important to you, what's going to keep you focused. Okay, so I'm going to go over a couple things here. Who are you doing this for? So that's what the next thing I was going to ask you for your goal. Who are you doing it for? Is it to surprise your kids? Now, depending on your personality, Karen Rydell, the national, she's a surprise girl. She wants to not tell her husband or her son what she's doing. She wants to save up the money, buy the tickets, and then just go ta-da and spring it on them. Some of you like accountability. You like your significant other or your kids to say, Mom, how are you doing on those tickets for Disneyland? The thing about kids is they're relentless. They will ask you 100 times, like, are we there yet? Are we there yet? You know, like that kind of a thing. They'll go, Mom, they'll come home from a skincare class. How are we doing with Disneyland? Say, I made another $40 today. They're like, Mom, how close are we to Disneyland? But that's a good thing because if your kids stay on your tail, you're not going to give up on your goal because you want to do it for your kids. So number one is who are you doing this for? And don't think there's anything wrong with doing it for yourself. Doing it for yourself is just as much an accomplishment as doing it for someone else. But sometimes we as women will work harder for someone else than we will for ourselves. So the second thing, once I ask you, who are you doing this for, right, is what's your plan? Now, this is where your director can be incredibly valuable. You don't have to know how to get there. You just have to know where you want to go. So if Julie, who's on here tonight, if she said to me, Diane, I want to be in a red jacket by September 15th. I said, okay, a red jacket is 3. If you don't currently have an active team member, we're looking at 3. How many people do you think we need to talk to have one say yes? And she'd say 4 or 5. And I'd say, okay, that's the company average. So if we talk to 15 people that know you, their customers, their relatives, whatever, we talk to 15 people, statistically, you're going to have 3 say yes. Now, you might get to all 15 and have no one say yes, or you might get to 9 and have all 3 say yes. But just on an averages, and I hate the word average, but on averages, that's what it's going to come down to. So then I would say to Julie, so let me ask you, if you had to give your entire customer base up, like literally give them away, and you could only keep 5 customers, who would those 5 clients be? And why? And she might say, well, it would be Suzanne because she loves the product. It would be Tammy because she loves me and we have a great social connection. It would be Nicole because she's been steady Eddie with me for decades, like whatever it is. And then we would have a strategy. That's where your director comes into play. Your director, her job is to be a strategist. Her job is to help you figure out, it's your job to figure out where you are, which hopefully isn't hard, and where you want to go. And you guys, the sky is the limit. Like if you had told me when I joined Mary Kay I'd be earning 17 pink Cadillacs, I would have absolutely laughed in your face. I didn't even want one pink Cadillac. I even told Janice, my sister, I will never drive a pink car. If I ever won one, I'd paint it white. Like, what a brat. Like, I can't believe I even told her that. But that's where my head was at. I was so sure that my corporate job was going to give me everything I wanted. So, all right. So, number two is what is your plan? Number three, when is your celebration? So, let's say you're going to celebrate what? The day that Costco delivers the table? Or is it going to be the day you order it? Or is the day that you plan a special dinner to serve on the table? Like, are you going to surprise your whole family? What is your celebration? Okay. And then the last thing is your final goal with a date. What's your real why? So here's what I will tell you is I had a conversation with a consultant a few years ago, and well, it was about a year ago, and she said, I really, really want to be a star. And she was rattling off some reasons. And I said, so why do you really want to be a star? And she said, oh, I love having the product and I love being able to order early and blah, and I love the prizes. And I said, so why is that important to you? And she said, well, I let the kids and my husband also pick out the prize. And I tell them how many points I have and they get to pick something. And I said, well, why is that important to you? She goes, so this went on for about 3 or 4 minutes. And finally I said, well, why is that important? And she got really quiet and her voice started to quiver. And she said, I just want to hear my husband say, I'm proud of you. We just then figured out her why. It wasn't about the star prize. It wasn't about her. I mean, those all play a factor, being at the top for referrals and ordering early. But what she really wanted was her husband to say, sweetheart, I'm proud of you. That's what her why was. When she tied her goal into that, I said, so what would you love him to say you're proud of? What about being a red jacket? What do you think he'd say at your red jacket debut? She goes, oh, he'd be so impressed. I said, what else would he be impressed with? Or what else would he love? Do you kind of get what I'm saying? So all I can say to you guys is you don't know what you're capable of doing when you stay inside your comfort zone. But you're not in this business by yourself. You are with your director, who is a mentor and a coach. I fall down constantly. I screw up constantly. But I have people like Melanie and Lori and our national Janice and all these other directors that are friends of mine that are there to go, Diane, you can totally do this. Pick yourself up, dust yourself off. You've got this. When I was doing triple star last year, I honestly didn't know if I was going to finish my B. I still had to get like 4 great star qualified. And then I started sharing the opportunity with every single person I facialed. And all of a sudden, I started having people say, you know what, I think I want to join your team. And I'd go, great. And it wasn't about my B. It was about that poem, Remember She Needs Me. And if you don't have that poem, text me privately and just say, can you please send me that poem? Because I had that poem scotch taped on my wall and I read it every single day. It's not about this opportunity. It's not about my diamond B. It's about what if being a part of this company makes her feel like she's adds more value, right? So what I'm going to tell you guys is figure out your why, but I want you to promise me something. Have a goal that you can achieve in the next 60 days or less. That's a financial goal that's around $500 or less. Something you want to buy, something you want to pay for. Maybe you want really cool Halloween decorations for outside your house. Like you want to get the big inflatable 8 foot tall pumpkin that's $300 on Amazon or whatever. Figure out what it is. Why do you want it? And call your director and say, here's my goal. I really want to earn this money for a pumpkin inflatable Halloween decoration. And I need to earn it by the 10th of October. Actually, everything will be sold out by then. But anyway, and then it's her job and your job to figure out a strategy of how to do this. Does that make sense? That formula really, really does work. And I will post that on our unit Facebook page. But find something you want to do. And I really challenge each and every one of you to be a star this quarter. So thanks for listening tonight, you guys. I appreciate you and I'm blessed to have you in my life.